Any questions from previous class? So we have seen Git, which is a source code repository. We store the source code on Git, GitHub. GitHub is a kind of repository, which is a centralized server where we can create the projects, we can create the repositories, we can store our code. It is basically a version control system, right? And we use Git to facilitate that thing, something like downloading the code to the local workstation, making the changes, uploading it again to the GitHub, right? So what are the stages we go through? We have something called index area, we have something called staging area, and we have remote repository. So when we clone it, we get all the changes into your laptop, right, to the workstation. That is called working copy, right? So when we make the changes, when we git clone, what we get is working copy, in the sense we get all the changes to our laptop, right? Then we have something called index area, then we have something called staging area, and then we have, let us say, staging area, and then we have remote repository. This is nothing but GitHub. Okay, this is nothing but origin, right? So what we have here is in staging area, when we commit, we get all our changes inside the staging area, right? This is the one where we are actually working. So we need to do git add, git commit, git push. So these are the three steps. When we commit it to the staging area, it is like we have committed all our changes to, we have saved all our changes to local repository. Right? And then when we push the changes, all those changes, we are simply copying it to the remote repository, right? So git pull is the command to download all the source code to local machine. Git push is the command to completely copy the staging area, all the changes we have done from local repository to remote repository, right? Is this clear? So there is also some command called git pull. So what is this? So generally, let us assume there are 5 developers working on a single project. And there is one lead and there is one architect in your project, right? So one architect has started the repository. He added the prototype scripts and the code, whatever is required for us to develop. Then lead also added some of the scripts and he created the login for himself, and we also created our logins, and he has given permission for us to log in and make some changes to the repository. So let us say there is a master branch, there is a develop branch. Develop branch is created from master branch. So we'll not touch master branch because it is a production ready branch. Only production, it should be always deployable to production. And there is a develop branch where we actively work on something like we create a replica of master branch in develop branch, right? So that we can modify the master branch. We cannot modify master branch. That's why we work on the develop branch. Then we have something called feature branches, right? So it is us actually who decide what to do, how to follow the best practices, the best DevOps practices, right? So there is a repository, there is a master branch. From master branch, we create a develop branch. So from develop branch, what happens is every developer create their own feature branches, right? So we'll not directly work on the remote repository, we work on the local repository. So let us say I am a developer. I'm a developer or a DevOps engineer, right? So it's not like only developers will check in, only developers will do the source version control. DevOps engineers also does version control, because we also need to store our infrastructure scripts, Jenkins related files. So whatever is there, whichever we are developing, we have to store on the centralized server, simply because we want to keep track of the changes. We want to store all our servers in a centralized location, so that because of some issue in the laptop, the source code is not lost, right? So let us say I'm a DevOps engineer or a developer. Then what I do, the first step is I do git clone http colon the link, GitHub link, then .com, some project, repository, .git, right? Then I get all the entire source code to my laptop. Then what else I do? I actually modify the code, right? So I go to the project, I add files, I delete files, change files, or whatever the modifications I do, right? Then what is the next step I need to do? I need to do git add, git commit. Commit messages are really important. You have to have a proper message while checking in, because this will be helpful to understand what have it done after in the coming time, in the coming years, right? So adding feature XYZ to product or project in version, etc. Like this, we have to give some proper information so that people understand what is happening with every commit, right? So when we add it, we are tracking the changes. We add it to index area. When we commit it, we have merged it to local area. Now we need to do, see, we cannot directly push. Sorry, we have missed one step. We have cloned the repository. When we clone it, by default, we will be in the master branch, right? So when you say git branch, it shows star on master, right? Now master are developed. So by default, there is a setting in GitHub which we can make. So by default, which branch you want to show. So generally it will be master or develop. Let us assume it is develop. Right? So we don't want that to directly work on develop. So what we need to do, we need to create a local repository. First we did clone, that's all. Then if we type git branch, it is showing develop branch, because develop branch is the default branch. Now what we need to do, we need to create a new branch. How do we create a new branch? Git branch feature XYZ. I have created a new branch. Then I want to move to the new branch. How do we move? Checkout feature XYZ. Now if I type git branch, the star shows something like this. Feature XYZ and then master and then develop. So the star indicates that I am currently working on feature branch. Remember that when you check out, when you create a branch and check out, it actually checking out from the develop branch. So all the files will be also available in develop branch. All the files will be available, same files will be available in feature branch. So don't get confused between the branches and make changes to develop branch. We should not make changes to develop branch. What we have to do is feature branch, and that too in the local machine first, right? So once this is done, we are done. So we have created the local branch. Now we can make the changes to our local branch. This is the fourth step. Okay. Then the fifth step is to add to the staging area. Once it is done, we commit it to the local repository. So once it is done, we push our changes to remote repository. So once we have pushed it, so all the changes are available on the remote branch, right? So now we have local machine, which is laptop, staging area, which is my local repository. Then we have remote repository, which is my GitHub, right? So now our changes are there in GitHub, but not on the develop branch, but on the feature branch. So there are three branches now: master, develop, and feature XYZ, right? So like this, every developer opens a new branch, creates a new branch, and he writes his changes in, pushes the changes. Now it's not like directly everybody push the changes to develop. They create their own branch. Now the next step is someone has to review, right? It's not like I developed the code, I check in. No, right? So we have to, we only have feature branch. Nobody uses feature branch unless we test and certify, someone certify that it's working one. Then what we need to do is actually before pushing changes, we need to do some kind of testing. I did not add it, but before adding the changes, do the tests. So generally, developers does some unit tests. As a DevOps engineer, we are also supposed to do some kind of testing before making the changes, right? So some silly mistakes like syntax issues and all, at least we should avoid before going for the review, right? Now we need to open the pull request. Pull request is nothing, simply a request to review. Request for team lead or architect to review, right? So how do you open a request? Pull request, there is a tab, create a pull request. There we need to specify source branch and destination branch. What is my source branch? Where did I develop the code? I developed in feature branch. Feature XYZ. What is my destination branch? Finally, I want to merge after all review is completed. I want to merge it to destination branch, which is my develop, right? So once this is done, the developer, the team lead will review and he'll provide some comments. So if he provides some comments, we can work on that and we can incorporate them. And once that is done, we can merge to develop branch. So once this is done, the feature XYZ will also available in develop branch. Is this clear?
Santosh, when we are pushing, if you go a little bit up, can you move? Yeah. Get push. Yeah. When you're pushing this, are we have to we need to create the feature branch at the remote.
Actually, this command for the first time will create the remote branch. This is the command to create the remote branch. Something like we need to tell GitHub like I created a local branch on my laptop. Please also create a remote branch under develop branch. So that is feature XYZ. For the next time when you do, you don't have to do all these things. Either you can give or you can simply git push, because it knows that you are working on feature XYZ. It will simply push it to the feature XYZ. This is optional. You can give or you can leave it, but for the first time it is mandatory just to create the remote branch on the GitHub.
Okay. So basically, first step, you're going to create locally the feature branch, and when you're pushing it, you're basically creating the feature branch on the remote.
Exactly. Yes.
So while you're creating a feature branch locally, are you going to create? Is it a good idea to create the feature branch at the same time on the remote?
No, because you want to do your changes before pushing it to the remote repository.
Okay.
Because you want to test the changes.
Okay. So this number 7, it will push your files and also create the feature branch also, right? Both things.
Yes, it will push and it will create the branch, and then I'll push all changes to the remote branch.
Okay. Now number 4, when you say add, git add, add command is basically making the saving the file.
Right? Kind of making the history. It's like tracking the changes. It is just to tell like what all the files we modified.
Yeah. Now one more thing I want to ask you. For example, number 7. I found out that when you push it, you cannot push just one file. You have to push the whole repository, all the files. I was trying to push let's say I have 3 files in feature working on, and on number 7, it will push all 3 files. You cannot push just one file. You have to push all 3 files, right?
Right. So because so it's like we modify the files which we are going to push only. So that's the reason why we have to push all the files.
What I'm saying, for example, number 4, when you git add, you can add just one file. Let's say you have 3 files in the feature, but you say git add testing 1 on. You can save at testing 1, but when you're pushing, you cannot push just testing 1. You have to push anything in your repository, right?
When you add one file, you can add see, when you just, let us say you have 5 files and you changed one file only, and
Yeah.
when you say add dot, it only tracks one file only. So you can push
Yeah.
one file only. Just do git add the file name, so it will add only one file. Then git commit, so it will commit one file. Then when you say git push, it will only push one file.
You push only the one that you added, huh?
Right, right.
Okay.
But when you
Okay.
say git add dot, it will track all the files whichever are there in your local directory.
Okay. So when you put dot, then it's going to be
Yeah.
do only
Dot
that.
implies correct directory. In anywhere, dot implies current directory.
Now, one more thing, I see that when you clone the files from one of the
Mm-hmm.
repositories, let's say you have cloned 3 files,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot change the name, because if you change the file name, you cannot push it. Is that right?
Yes, we can change the name. The thing is, the old file, it's like old file will be deleted and a new file will be created. When you download the file and then
Yeah.
make the changes and add, then yes, it works. But it is like the old file will be deleted, a new file will be created with a new name.
So the old file on the remote repository will be deleted and the new will be added?
Yes, yes, when you push it.
When it, yeah, I have tried it, but I think it failed. It say that file is not on the remote side, something like that. So I don't know.
When did it fail? Is it during push or?
During push, because I download the file, I change the name of the file, and after changing the name, I was pushing that file, and it says that file is not available on the remote side, and it won't push. So it didn't push the after changing the name.
Okay.
And one more thing, when the file name,
Santosh, this is Lakshmi. I think you are changing the file means that's a new file. You have to add and commit, right? Then you can push.
Right. I think you tried add and all the same process you have tried, right? Add, commit, push.
yes, I was doing the add. Add was okay, but cannot push it. I'll try again maybe.
Yeah, you can try again once again and let me know
Yeah,
if it doesn't work. We will try.
I'll try again.
And
So
Santosh, one more.
this, yeah.
Number 5.
Hmm.
Top, I think you said test and git add. Where they are going to test, because the file is not yet available on remote site, right?
So you have to test locally.
Locally. It means local developer has to. The
Right,
person who
right.
developed, they have to test it, not
Let us say you are a DevOps engineer. How do we test our scripts? First, we copy them to a Vagrant machine, test if it is working, then we'll push it to the remote repository. So it's always you are writing something, anything. You are writing Ansible script, writing some Chef script or Puppet script. So we have to configure that locally. Or if you have a remote repository, remotely also you have some machines where you want to test, that's also fine. But it's always recommended to do some kind of testing, at least execute and then see there are no issues, then push it.
Okay. Thank you.
That is what is unit testing, right? Unit
Yeah,
testing is something like,
yeah,
yes.
how we can avoid last change we made to the file? I found out that you can like I've just made change. I want to revert back the last change, just one change, not all the changes.
Yeah, it depends on the stage you are in. But if you say git status, it will clearly tell if you want to revert back what is the thing you need to do, right? Once you have committed, you cannot change it once you already committed to local repository. But let us say you have added a file and you want to remove. There is something called git checkout -- file and the file name XYZ. This will change back. It will not track the changes now, right?
Okay.
So for anything, if you say git status, it will clearly tell what needs to be done. You want to push git status, let us say you added a file. Git status will show there is a file added, and if you want to revert back, what is the next command you have to do? Clearly it will tell. And let us say you have committed and it says git status, everything is clean, right? Because you have merged the changes to, you have committed all your changes to local repository. So the next step is to push. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I found out the way to get rid of all the changes. Like there was one command I don't remember. but
Git
there's
reset head will be there. Git reset head, Git
yes, yeah,
checkout hyphen file.
yes. That to get
There's
rid
a
of
lot of
all the
commands,
things.
right? Git log is
And there's,
there.
yeah,
And
there's
what
another
else?
way to get rid of and amend the comment also. But I couldn't find anything that will just get rid of just one change. Like, okay, so it depends
One
on
change,
yeah,
one file.
one change from the file only.
Okay, you
Last,
mean last commit.
yes.
Okay, I'm also not aware. Maybe I need to check, explore what exactly what is the command to.
Okay, sure, no worries. Okay.
Yeah, okay, but remember this is the process, and this step, this is the step, important step where we need to open a pull request. This is just for a review, kind of review, asking for feedback. Like what I have done all these changes. So what all these things? What all other things I need to do? Or is everything okay? Is the logic is okay? Or syntax is okay? That kind of thing. I mean, they may not check syntax, but they basically check how the variables are defined, how the functions are called, and is the best practices followed, etc. So those things they'll review and they give the comments. Once they give comments, we can work on the comments and we can set the things right. And if we are ready, it's actually our discretion whether he has provided the comments, then we updated the comments. So we can decide whether we want to merge it or we want to work on some more changes and again merge it, right? Basically, pull request is to request for the team lead. We need to provide two things. One is the source branch, the other is the destination branch, and we need to provide the message. What is changed in this branch, right? So I have checked in this feature. It works this way. Something like clear description we'll write, and then we open a pull request. And I'm not going into the general coding practices, right? So how do we define the variables? So there has to be some standard convention, right? So you give some value to them, and some companies follow small cases, some companies follow something like variable, and some companies follow variable underscore something like counter, right? Some companies follow variable like this also, counter. It depends on the organization. So those things we need to follow while declaring the variables, while calling the functions, and this thing, what is indentation is also important, right? So you define a function, right? You start it from here with a tab or 4 spaces, then you follow. So all these things basically helps in a neat review. So they review it properly, and then once they provide the comments, we can update them and we can merge the changes to the repository. Is this clear? So there are things like GitHub is the repository, right? So GitHub is a repository, Git is a tool. And then there is something called Stash. There is something called Bitbucket. These are all same, right? They are different versions of GitHub. All the commands and everything is same, but the graphical user interfaces will change. GitHub is open source for public usage, and if you want to use for giving permissions and all private usage, it is chargeable. In the same way, Stash and Bitbucket are also licensed products. They can be used inside the organization. So basically all are same. You have some centralized repository, you have Git, you push the changes, you review it, you merge it, you maintain the source code, you version control it. Okay. Is this clear?
Sorry, what is Stash? I don't get that part. What is
Stash is kind of a repository. Basically, it looks like GitHub only, but it is a product from another company, right?
Okay.
GitHub is developed by Linus Torvalds, open source, and this is Atlassian. Sorry. Stash and Bitbucket are developed by Atlassian company. So okay, they are also same like GitHub, but so little bit difference will be there. how do you raise a pull request, how do you see the repositories and all. But essentially the concept is same. They all are centralized servers where we store the source code.
Also, so Stash is a similar product like GitHub, right?
Yes, Stash and Bitbucket both are same like a GitHub.
So there are different console you have to download and just run the similar commands that you use for GitHub?
Something like, let us say, company is using Stash. So there will be a URL which they provide, which we can clone, same like GitHub.
What about console? Like, is it the same GitHub console you're going to use, a different console?
Same. It's like URL. You can access the URL, something like stash us.company.com and all the repositories.
Okay, so just different repository, but the console would be the same for both the repositories. Okay.
Yes. I mean, there will be little differences in terms of how it look and feel, but essentially the centralized concept is same.
Okay, syntax may be different. Okay.
Yeah, and we use same Git to push it to Stash, or same Git to push it to Bitbucket, same Git commands. But how do we push? I mean, the way it looks like when we open a pull request, what options will be same, but little bit of GitHub structure where is these buttons and all will be different.
Yeah, I see that there were some plugins also available for GitHub, right?
In Jenkins, you mean?
I found there were some like plugins that you can use and install on the GitHub console for VMware.
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of things actually. There are a lot of integrations we can do with Jira is there, and we can integrate GitHub with that, and we can see the source code difference. A lot of these things are there.
Yeah, looks like they want to focus a lot on GitHub console, like work everything from the GitHub console, like all downloads, anything you want to do, use the GitHub console.
Yeah. GitHub also has a web graphical user interface. When you download Git Bash, just type GitHub on your Windows desktop. You also see a graphical user interface. There also you can do this check-in, check-out, and all. But it's always good to use the CLI because you execute the commands and you know what is happening. Okay. So there is a Git pull, Git clone is right to download the source code to local repository. So there is also something called Git pull. Why Git pull is required? Let us say there are 5 people working on a single project. So there is person 1, there is a developer 1 who modified who downloaded one file and started working on the changes, right? Now, let us say after some time, another person and this developer 1 did Git clone at 10 a.m. started working, right? And at let us say 2 p.m. developers 2 started working. Right? And this guy in the previous day only he did a Git clone, developer 2. Right? Now this guy has some changes, and this guy started working on at 10 a.m. and he started working after, let us say, 12 o'clock. He checked in code. Again means pushed, and he is merged with the develop branch. Now this guy, since he does not have the latest code because he did Git clone previous day, so he got all the code which is available on the GitHub that previous day, and today he started working on it. Okay, fine. This guy also started working on it on the same file, and he pushed it, let us say 5 p.m. Now GitHub will throw errors saying that you're trying to modify file XYZ, but that file XYZ latest content you do not have because this file XYZ is modified. By whom? By developer 1 today. So the content which you have and the content which is available on the GitHub and the content which you have downloaded is different. So I cannot merge. There are conflicts, merge conflicts, and you have to take care of them manually before merging it to GitHub, right? So ideally what should happen when this guy started working at 2 p.m. he has to do git pull. What is git pull? This will get the latest changes to working or workstation laptop, right? Then developer 2 has to start working on developer 1 changes. Then there won't be any problem, right? So let us say the 2 developers and 1 developer already committed something, but that changes developer 2 doesn't have in his workstation. So when he pushes, if the same file is modified, obviously GitHub cannot have a logic to find out how to merge. Let us say same line is modified by developer 1 and developer 2, and developer has 1 version, developer 2 has 1 version. So which has to be, developer 1 has 1 syntax, developer 2 has 1 syntax. So which has to be taken in the final count? So that option will give it to us, something like it will throw error saying that there are merge conflicts. So first what we need to use, we need to always pull the code before starting working on the our changes, so that we just to make sure that we have the latest code available and we make our changes on top of that, right? This is one of the best practice. So always when we start working on our changes, we have to do git pull. Otherwise we need to handle the merge conflicts, open the file, so decide which is correct, his change or my change, and if it is let us say his change is correct, then delete my change and then do a commit that way. Okay.
But Santosh, this is also possible that he did a git pull and after 2 hours the file has been already modified by someone else. So it's going to be merge conflicts again, right?
Yes. So definitely there will be again merge conflicts. Then we need to actually, while merging it will open a VI editor. Okay. VI editor it will show like this is the change, this is his change, this is your, something like a diff command it will show. Then it will ask delete whatever you want. You want his change or you want your change. So one of them we can delete and save, that will automatically merge.
Yeah. Ideally, I think only one should work on a file at a time, right?
Yeah, ideally one should work, but what happens is, let us say there is a develop branch, there is a main file and feature 1, feature 2. 2 people are working on, one person working on feature 1, other person working on feature 2. Now let us say feature 1 has separate file, feature 2 has separate file. So absolutely there won't be any issues in this scenario. Take second scenario wherein feature 1 changes he has to push also do in main file. Feature 2 changes he also has to do in main file, right? So main file has to have 2 entries. One is feature 1, the other is feature 2. So in this case it will throw errors because main file will be modified in feature 1 branch. Main file also will be modified in feature 2 branch. So in that case we need to resolve the conflicts because GitHub cannot find out what is right.
Yeah, just make. Yeah, I think this is how you. I think this is how you control and how you basically allow people to make changes.
Right,
how you
right.
can control that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Right. So this is about Git. So pull, we always have to pull the latest code. This is also equal to clone, but the problem with pull is you have working copy, you have local repository, you have remote repository, right? This is what we have seen. So here where we are working actually, but when we do pull, it actually copies entire thing from remote repository to working copy, right? So all your changes are overwritten. You get all the new changes. Let us say you modified something and developer 2, another person is there. He has already checked in something. So now you want to get the latest code. Now from the remote repository, if you do git pull, it will get all the changes to working copy. So your changes are last, first issue. Second issue, let us say that developer has not done coding properly and there are some syntax issues, you get all of them, right? So how to avoid that? So what we can do is we'll not directly download the code to working copy, but we download it to local repository, right? So how to do that? There is a command called git fetch. Git fetch will download changes to local repository. In the sense, we can then do git merge and we can review the changes. Let us say I review the changes. If they are perfectly fine, then only I'll merge. So this merge with my working copy, I mean local copy, whatever I am working on. So basically I simply blindly do not want to go for git pull, because git pull will overwrite everything in my working directory, and if there are any errors which are committed by the other developer, I will also get them. So what I want to do is, first I'll do git fetch, it will download it to local repository, then I review the changes. If I'm satisfied, then only I'll do git merge. So after merge, everything will be available in my local copy, then I can start working on my changes.
Yeah, all those git merge or git pull, it's going to be applied to all the files on the repository. You cannot say like git merge file 1 from repository 1. You cannot do that.
Yeah, so it's mostly for all the files. When we say git pull, it downloads the entire .git this thing to our local machine. So probably if you want to change one file only, what we need to do is, so we can copy that from GitHub. Just open in the URL console, then go to that file, and then just say copy, Control A, Control C, then come back to your local machine, and then I mean, if you're satisfied with the changes only, then remove your file and just open in VI Editor and completely paste it, so that you have one change available on your machine.
Yeah, or you can create another directory, subdirectory, and clone everything there, and then copy it from clone to the main directory.
Yeah, you can create one directory in some other location, not in the current location, maybe somewhere in root or somewhere else in your documents or somewhere. Then compare the changes. Then if you're satisfied, then you can copy it to your local copy. Okay. So this is about version control or source control. So there is something called build tools. What are the build tools? Now let us say GitHub is there. We have all source code stored, source code repository. We write our scripts, shell scripts, Perl scripts, Python scripts, Ruby scripts, Java coding, C coding, C++, .NET, everything we store on GitHub. Now we have something like we need to compile the code, right? Why do we need to compile? Because we want to provide that binary to the customer, right? So in case of C, CPP, Java, we compile the code, right? In case of scripting languages, we need to execute the code, right? So we need to interpret. So what's the difference between compiler and interpreter? Compiler will create binary. Interpreter basically will execute the code, right? So there is nothing like intermediate stage in case of scripting languages. So in case of scripting languages, we directly provide the script to the customer, wherein customer can open and see what is there in the script. But in case of C or C++ or Java programming language, what we provide is binary. This is the compiled version of the source code. So nobody can see your what is the code inside in the binary, right? So it's a human machine readable binary, right? So that binary we generally provide it to the customer, right? So in case of, let us say, Java program, what is the first step? You have written a program called hello-world.java. Right? This is a program. This has something like println, etc., hello world or whatever, right? Then this will just print hello world. Now I need to compile this program. How do we do? In case of Linux, we do Java C hello world.java. So this will give a binary called hello world.class. This is the one which we need to ship it, right? So if there are hundreds of files like this, hundreds of classes will be created. How do we ship hundreds of classes? It's difficult for us to ship all those things. So what we do is we create a jar file. or var file. This is simply a kind of archive which contains all these classes. So there will be one file which is created, hello world.jar. This has all the changes of new feature. Then we give this to the customer. Then he applies this and application will be up. Right? So that is how it works. Right? So basically we have source code, we have binaries, and we convert the source code to binaries. But how do we convert? We have to compile. But how do we compile? There are thousands of class files. I cannot go and manually compile, right? So there has to be some tool which takes care of this compilation. So that is nothing but build tool. So build tool will convert source code to binary. Binary is also called as artifacts. What is artifact? It's a simply binary. So from the source code, we convert that to binary and then we give it to customer. Right? So there are tools like Ant, Maven, Gradle, etc. So these are the tools which will basically help in converting the source code to binary. So it's not like a simple one file or two file. There will be hundreds of files. So they maintain some kind of directory structure. Inside that structure, they have a lot of source code under that main, under that app, under that the XYZ. So there will be some directory structure for any project. So src source, then we have test, and under that we have test scripts. So like this, the source code, the code will be available. API, some programs or whatever, some source code. So this we want to convert it to a jar file. So we use tools like Ant or Maven. So Ant is a little old tool, again developed by Apache. This is also developed by Apache. So here, how does it work? So we basically, Ant uses something called build.xml, where we write XML syntax saying that my source code is available here. Use compile the code. Basically it's not like only compiling, right? So let us say you compile for the first time. It created a binary. When you compile for the next time, I want to remove that binary which is compiled already. Then I want to create a new binary, right? Or that is called clean face. So all these things we need to write in the build.xml. So this is Ant. Ant is a little old tool. Nowadays people are going for Maven. What is Maven? What is the difference between Ant and Maven? Maven uses something called pom.xml, project object module, right? So let us say you have a project, you have thousands of files, and I want to convert that entire thing into a binary. So what are the things I need to take care? I need to have the proper directory structure. I need to tell this is where my source code is, and I want to download my binaries to a particular path, right? So generally src main app xyz src test, I want to download my binaries to target classes. Here I want to have all my classes, hello world.1.class, 2.class, 3.class, like that. And then I want to have under target hello world.java. Right? So basically what are we doing here? We have some source code. Now we are converting that to binary. How do we convert? We have different tools. What do we tell to the build tool? We have to inform build tool saying that my source code is here. I want my target jar files, my target class files to be here. And I also want to tell my build tool like my goals. I want to clean before compile. I want to compile. I want to build. I want to deploy. I want to install. Right? So all these are goals which I can write in the XML configuration files. Right? I'm not going too much details into Ant because nowadays people have migrated to Maven. So we start working on Maven. We install the Maven, we configure the Maven, we generate the pom.xml, we define, we see what are the goals available, how to call them, how to generate the binary out of the source code, and all the stuff we'll see, right?
So Maven is basically convert the code into binaries. You can say that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So it's just converting. Let's say we have scripts available, like codes available on the GitHub. We're going to download those codes and convert those codes into a binary using Maven, right?
Right. So
Okay.
yeah, so right now we'll see manually, but at the end of the day, I mean at the end of the course, what we need to understand is everything happens automatically. We have Jenkins that downloads from GitHub, we have Maven that builds, and we have other tools that deploys, right? So, I mean, to understand the complete workflow, first we need to understand each component. That is what we are doing here. So it's like, I mean, I cannot directly show you Jenkins and say integrate GitHub, use Maven, right? So we need to understand what is GitHub first, then what is Maven, then we have already seen Ansible, then we see one integration complete, then we'll see Jenkins, then we'll see one integration, right? So how do we install, let us say Maven, how do we install Maven? Yum install -y Maven. This will install Maven in the machine. So once we install the machine, what do we type? MVN is the command. Right? Sorry. MVN is the command to execute Maven. Right? So you have source code. Sorry. So I'll just log into one of the Vagrant machine. Then we'll install Maven there, and then we'll write some. We'll generate the pom.xml. Then we see how does pom.xml looks like, and what all the entries will be there in pom.xml and all the stuff. So did you understand why do we need build tools? That is the first thing.
Yeah, the build tools are basically to convert the code into the binaries. That right?
Right. So it will install all the dependencies which are required for Maven.
So ant is a similar thing, right? You said.
Yes, Ant is similar, but Ant is old, and there are disadvantages with Ant. The problem with Ant is everything we have to define, right? So it's like when we work on projects, one project may depend on other project, right? So there are something called dependencies. There are something called lib files, some libraries, some binaries which we need to download. So what happens is when we use Ant, everything we have to do manually. We have to tell like this is my source directory, this is destination directory, and this is my, there will be a local repository in every machine, right? So let us say a project 1 is dependent on project 2, and project 2 libraries have to be present to execute project 1. In that case, we manually have to download and keep in the local repository so that Ant uses them while executing project 2. But in case of Maven, everything it does automatically. We just need to tell like this is the dependency. It will go to the internet and download if the dependency is not available, and it will keep in the local repository. So that's the difference between Ant and Maven. So Ant is specifically just a build tool. Maven is a kind of project management tool. it does a lot of other things.
Okay, integration maybe probably. Okay.
Yeah. So I just say mvn hyphen version Maven, Apache Maven 3.0.5 is installed, right? So Maven is a tool that basically converts our binaries to, sorry, our source code to binary. What is binary? Binary is nothing but a builder, artifact or binary, all are same. Okay. We call build, right? Build tools, builds or binaries, these all are same. So generally, previously there used to be a build team. They used to sometimes manually convert the binaries, convert the source code to binaries, and they keep these binaries somewhere, right? So now everything is automated. Now DevOps is taking care of all these things, right? So GitHub is a source code repository, right? And we use build tools to convert that to binaries. We use build tools to and Maven, etc. to convert those things to binaries or artifacts. Then now we need to store these binaries also somewhere. Right, so why do we need to store the binaries? Let us say there is a project and there is a version X version build X generated. Now build X has problem. Now we want to move to the previous build. How do we move? If we override the previous build, we cannot. So we also have to maintain repository of binaries where we can simply download the binaries, right? So for that we have something called Nexus. So Nexus is a tool that basically stores all the binaries. So we'll start with Maven tomorrow, understanding Maven, understanding POM, and there is something called, in POM we have goals, phases, dependencies, life cycle, and how to execute Maven command, how to execute Maven goal, right? So what is pom.xml? We'll take simple example, we'll convert that to a binary, and we'll see how jar files are getting generated, and then so typically some scenarios in the organizations what they do. Any questions? We just downloaded Maven, we have not yet started. Just downloaded using yum command, yum install -y Maven, will download Maven. Then we have Maven available in the machine, and Maven version is also showing up, Apache Maven. Now we will use this Maven to generate a pom.xml. In the pom.xml, what is there? Project name, company name, version of the project, and the goals, dependencies, phases, and all we'll see. Okay. We'll stop here. We'll continue at the same time tomorrow.